One of the hardest parts of healing your relationship with food is that sometimes you genuinely don't know what you're feeling. You eat, and afterward you wonder, was that physical hunger? Was that emotional hunger? Was I stressed? Did I get too hungry? Or maybe you tried to override your hunger because you don't fully trust it, and then later you find yourself eating with that urgency that feels really hard to stop. That kind of confusion can make food feel exhausting because when you don't understand what's driving the urge, it becomes very easy to turn against yourself. You assume you have no discipline. You assume you should know by now. You assume you're doing something wrong. But for many people, these signals got blurred a long time ago. A lot of us learned early that food was not just about nourishment. It was also about comfort, soothing, distraction, reward, and relief. And sometimes when the adults around us didn't know how to help us with emotion, food became one of the ways distress got softened or quieted. So the line between physical hunger and emotional hunger can very easily get blurred. And if you add years of dieting, restriction, shame, or stress, or trying to control food on top of all of that, those signals can become even harder to read. So if understanding physical versus emotional hunger feels confusing for you, it does not mean you're broken, and you are definitely not alone. It often means you're trying to untangle a pattern that makes a lot of sense. And the good news is these signals can really become clearer. So in this video, I want to help you understand the difference between physical hunger and emotional hunger. Not so that you can judge yourself better, but so you can understand yourself better. Physical hunger usually has a more grounded quality. It often builds more gradually. There may be a growing awareness that your body needs energy. You might find it hard to focus. And there's that distinct sensation in your stomach, that empty, gnawing feeling. You might find yourself thinking about food a lot, and almost anything sounds appetizing. As my grandmother used to say, hunger is a good cook, right? So most foods start to sound good. And if you're not over hungry, you still have access to your intention and choice of how you want to nourish your body. Often there's some sense of, my body needs something. And when you're physically hungry and you respond with enough food, there's usually a point of satisfaction, a point where your body settles. You may notice that the hunger begins to soften. Your system starts to feel more regulated. It becomes easier to stop. You're less interested in food. You may even notice that it's not tasting as good. And all of this happens not because you're forcing yourself to stop, but because the need is actually met. That satisfaction piece can be a really important signal, right? That you've met the right response with the need. And that's when your system starts to relax and soften. Because when the hunger feels insatiable, when it doesn't really ever go away, when food gives us temporary relief but not true resolution, there's a good chance that something emotional is also present. Emotional hunger often has a different texture. It tends to feel more urgent, more activated, more insistent. It often wants relief and it wants it quickly. It may feel less connected to nourishment and more connected to escape, numbing, comfort, or relief, right? So you're drawn more to those comfort foods, right? Versus that intention of how you want to nourish your body. And because food is not the true answer to what's being felt, the hunger can have an insatiable quality. It keeps reaching, not because you're broken or out of control, but because the deeper need has not actually been met. Because emotional hunger is not asking for food alone. It's asking for food to do something. It's asking for food to soothe something, to quiet something, to fill something, to help something stop. And food can only do that temporarily. It can never really make it go away. So you have to keep eating. And very often, emotional hunger is preceded by a trigger. And that trigger might be stress, it might be overwhelm, it could be loneliness, disappointment, restlessness, or shame. Often that initial emotion goes unnoticed because our system jumps too quickly to the escape. So one of the most helpful questions you can ask is not just, what do I want to eat? But also, what happened right before this? What am I feeling right now? Is there any activation or tension in me? How connected am I to myself in this moment? Because that often tells you a lot. It opens the aperture and gives you the full view of your experience beyond the urge to eat. And now there's an important nuance here that I want to name. This is really important because a lot of people miss this. Over hunger can look a lot like emotional hunger. If you've gone too long without eating, if you've been undernourishing yourself, if you've been trying to be good, right, or dieting, or if you've simply gotten really, really hungry, right? Maybe it's a busy day and you haven't had time and you're just really, really hungry. Physical hunger can start to come with that same urgency as emotional hunger. At that point, your physiology is trying to correct for deprivation, and that can create that exact kind of energy people often judge, right? That energy of, I need something right now, I don't care, just give me food. That does not automatically mean emotional eating. Sometimes that is just your body trying to protect you from further deprivation. And this is one reason so many people get confused, because the same urgency they've been taught to mistrust can sometimes be coming from a very biological need. So the goal is not to reduce this to a simple checklist. The goal is to start noticing the quality of your experience. It's not something you can think your way through. You have to get better at feeling. You have to get familiar with your experience. Does this feel gradual or sudden? Is it grounded or activated? Is it open or urgent? Does the food bring satisfaction, or does the hunger keep reaching? Was there an emotional hunger? Have I gone too long without eating? Am I looking for nourishment, or am I looking for relief? And sometimes the answer is both. Sometimes you are physically hungry and you are emotionally activated. Sometimes your body needs food, and sometimes inside you also feels stressed, ashamed, lonely, or overwhelmed. That does not mean you failed. It means you're having a human experience. And honestly, I think this is one of the most important shifts in healing your relationship with food. Moving away from, I need to get this exactly right, and toward, I'm learning to understand what's happening. Because that's how trust gets built. Not through perfection, not through rigid control, but through relationship and connection. So I recently had a conversation with a client about this, and I thought it captured this so beautifully. At the beginning of her journey, honoring her hunger felt scary because she genuinely didn't trust herself to know the difference. Everything felt blurry. But as she's been doing this work, getting more familiar with her body, her patterns, and the parts of her that gather around food and that get activated around food, she's been able to feel the distinction much more clearly. She can recognize when something feels physically grounded, more aligned, and more satisfying. And she can also recognize when something feels more urgent, more insatiable, and more emotionally charged. That clarity didn't come from controlling harder. It came from getting curious, from paying attention, and building relationship with what was happening inside her. That's the work. So if you're in the stage where this feels confusing, please be gentle with yourself. You do not need to decode every hunger cue perfectly. You are learning a language, and like any language, it becomes clearer with practice. If this resonates, I have other videos on stress eating, triggers, and the body wisdom framework that can help support you in building this skill step by step. And if you'd like support in your process, you're also welcome to book a consultation through the link in the video description. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in the next video.